Well, hey, Minorcan Navy, got another adventure here for you. This is down in Fernandina Beach on Amelia Island in Florida, Fort Clinch. We went down and had a really neat time. Went for the Candlelight tour, and I got to tell you, this was quite the experience down at the old fort with reenactors, and really had a good time.
Well, the fort was built for harbor defense. They started here in 1847. Taken us 16 years to build this fort to the level you see, 5.5 million bricks built. About 1.5 million bricks left to go to finish it. The fort was built to guard the Cumberland Sound and the 2 seaports here.
Now, this is a limited space event. It's a very intimate group. You got to sign up at the ranger station, and they do it on the first weekend of every month.
Soldiers' barracks, and when finished, we'll have 77 pieces of artillery here. For you folks, they lock up bad civilians, but here in the Army, we lock up soldiers that have been bad. We generally have 3 levels of confinement here: loose confinement, closed confinement, and solitary confinement. So depending on what a...
Now, the reenactors there make this an immersive history experience, and it's very informative, but also entertaining.
They're dead as well. So they're getting ready to go on an expedition. So some of them are kind of nervous. So it's important. This is a soldier's barracks, troop quarters. It's 150 men, and currently it's the only barracks building in the fort that is...
All the lighting at the fort during the tour is either by candlelight or oil or kerosene lamps. And once your eyes adjust to the darkness, you are truly immersed into this history.
So now we have roughly about 600 runaway slaves that are now under our protection here. And so they live here at the town, and the Army and the Navy has employed them and work. And so giving them jobs there so they can draw wages inside to the kitchen there. There's some of the loaves of bread there. Every soldier in the Army is entitled to 1 pound, 6 ounces of bread every day. And
now, the host you've been hearing there, that was actually a park ranger. He has the character of the watch sergeant at the fort during its Union hold. There's also nights where they do Confederate the fort. They do a World War II fort as well, because Fort Clinch actually was part of the coastal watch for the United States during World War II, and it was an operation as a post at that time. So their schedule varies. It's typically on the first weekend of every month, but check with them. You won't be disappointed. I really had a great time there, and the folks put on a heck of a good tour. Now, the cost for this tour is I think $2.50, and money well spent. And I'm sure these areas are open during the regular times that the fort is in operation during the day, but at nighttime, again, with the candlelight and the oil lights and the fires that are burning in the bakery and in the kitchen, it makes for a very unique experience. And on a good evening, which this was in late October, that made this trip down to Fort Clinch, moon was up, and it was just a great night to be down in North Florida.
This is kitchen number 4. This is one of 4 kitchens in the fort for meals, breakfast, dinner, and supper. We have a pantry of the food, keep food and storage right there. So big food pantry there, curing barrels for the bread. We've got meat barrels back there, beans, rice, lentils, potatoes, carrots, corn, onions. We have a punch that is very popular with the men. We also have coffee. Coffee's a staple. We have coffee at all 3 meals. There's some of the bread that came over from... This is kitchen number 2, which is the washroom here at the fort. The Army allows for us to hire up to 4 women per 100 men as laundresses and pay them a wage. They don't live here in the fort. They come in from town, part of the civilian population that has come back to the island, which in this case is mostly all runaway slaves. So now they're under federal protection. So we can't just give them things. They have to actually have a job, work, and receive things. We give them rations of food if they're working for us.
Well, as the tour wound down, over at Fort Clinch. I was camping there, so left the fort and headed back. And next morning, jumped up and started looking around the park and found this interesting spot. This is part of the range system for the old lighthouse that would have been in operation at Amelia Island to come in and out of the inlet there. And these pictures you're seeing here are representative of what was there. The only thing that's left there now are the ruins, this being the oil house, and then some of the foundations were still visible for the actual beacon itself. Fascinating stuff. We still have one of these that is visible on Sapelo Island. It's been restored, but just an interesting part of the history at Fernandina Beach. And while we're there, we got to take a look at some of the wildlife that was running around Fort Clinch. And I want you to watch this gopher tortoise as it makes its way down this sand dune, just grabbing the tender grass that's growing. I thought tortoises were slow, but this guy is making pretty good tracks, and he's enjoying some of that grass that's there. They say they got their own little colony of gopher tortoise that kind of encompass the property of Fort Clinch, and this is one of the little soldiers there. Found armadillo kind of bouncing around. These guys are kind of deaf, but interesting nonetheless. A white-tailed deer. Again, this was right alongside the road, very friendly, and stopped for a little bit to watch this deer forage along the roadway. And before I left, I wanted to share these images with you from the northwest side of Amelia Island, overlooking the Amelia River. This is on the state park property. Just a pretty sunset. I kind of took this in and just wanted to share these images with you. Well, as these kind of wind out, I'm going to ask you, if you haven't done it yet, to click on that subscribe link, send us some comments. But as always, we want all you guys to stay safe out there.